after completing the project and necessary procedures abroad. Jack quickly booked a flight back to Vietnam. The thought of seeing Tu Tien again, after so many days apart, filled his heart with anticipation. Sitting in the airport waiting lounge, Jack glanced at his phone, admiring the photo Tu Tien had sent him earlier. She stood in a field of vibrant yellow mustard flowers. Her gentle smile as radiant as the morning sun. He smiled softly, feeling warmth spread through his chest. "You're going to be so surprised when you see me," Jack murmured to himself, his hand lightly touching the gift box beside him. The box was carefully wrapped in metallic silver paper. Inside was a gray shirt with an elegant white collar. He had chosen this gift with great care, hoping it would become a special keepsake, a token of his deep affection for Tu Tien. As the plane took off, Jack sat by the window, watching the vast blue sky and the soft clouds below. The thought of holding Tu Tien in his arms again, hearing her gentle voice, made time feel unbearably slow. "Wait for me, Tien, I'm coming home soon," he whispered, his eyes filled with longing. Returning home and the moment of reunion. After a long flight, Jack finally arrived at the airport in Vietnam. He quickly grabbed his luggage, hailed a taxi, and stopped by a familiar flower shop to buy a bouquet of fresh sunflowers, Tu Tien's favorite. The taxi rolled through familiar streets, leading Jack back to the peaceful little village. Every tree-lined road, every familiar corner, stirred up beautiful memories in his heart. When the car stopped in front of the farm's gate, Jack stepped out, holding the bouquet and the gift box in his hands. From a distance he saw Tu Tien bend over, watering the vegetables in the garden. He stood still for a few moments, simply watching her, the petite, simple figure that in his eyes shone brighter than anything. She was the woman he wanted to cherish and protect for a lifetime. "Tu Tien," Jack called out, his voice warm and familiar. Tu Tien looked up, her kiss locking onto him. First there was shock, then pure, overwhelming joy. "Jack, is it really you?" Her voice trembled and tears welled up in her eyes. Without a second thought, Tu Tien ran to him, throwing her arms around him tightly. She sobbed, her voice breaking. I missed you so much, do you know that?" Jack gently placed the bouquet down and had his arms around her. He softly reassured her, his voice filled with love. "I know, Tien, I miss you just as much. I'm sorry for making you wait so long." Tu Tien buried her face against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness, but from overwhelming happiness. A special gift and a strange dream. As they sat together on a small wooden bench in the garden, Jack handed Tu Tien the bouquet and the gift box. "This is for you. A little something I picked out just for you," he said, his eyes filled with tenderness. Tu Tien opened the box, and when she saw the elegant gray shirt with the white collar, her eyes sparkled. "This is beautiful, Jack. You must have taken so much time choosing this. Nothing is too difficult when it's for you." Jack smiled, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I thought this color would suit you perfectly." Tu Tien held up the shirt, feeling the soft fabric and admiring the delicate stitching. She couldn't hide the emotions in her eyes. "Thank you, Jack. You always make me feel so cherished." As they talked, Tu Tien shared with Jack about a frightening dream she had. She looked at him, her expression filled with unease. "In my dream you were gone, you work with me anymore. I cried so much. It felt so real and so terrifying. Jack fell silent for a moment, before gently taking her hand in his. His eyes were full of reassurance. Don't worry, Chin. It was just a dream. I'm here right by your side and I'm not going anywhere. Tu Tien nodded, feeling the sincerity in his every word. Deep love and gentle care. Jack softly asked about Tu Tien's days at the farm. About the hard work and how she had been managing. Then with a playful smile, he teased, without me around. Have you been slacking off, do you? Chin chuckled, wiping away the last traces of her tears. Without you I had to work twice as hard to keep the farm running smoothly. Jack nodded, his eyes filled with admiration. Holding her hand, he whispered, I promise, I won't let you be away from me for this long again. You mean everything to me. Jack's sincere words and loving gaze melted Tu Tien's heart. She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the peace that only Jack could bring her. As dinner passed in a cozy atmosphere, Tu Tien gently placed her teacup on the table and looked at Jack. Her eyes shone with deep concern. Jack, I want to ask, how has your work been over there? I know you've been busy, but you haven't shared much detail with me, and it makes me worrying. Jack smiled softly, taking her delicate hand in his. Feeling the warmth of her palm, he replied in a gentle tone, everything is fine, Tien. The project I worked on was successfully completed. It was a major contract with our partners there, and I'm really glad that everything went smoothly. Tu Tien nodded, her eyes filled with pride. You did so well, Jack. I always knew you were talented. But was it tough on you? Long business trips like that must be exhausting. Jack chuckled, his gaze tender as he looked at her. To be honest, there were times when it was tiring. But every time I thought of you, of our little home and your beautiful farm, I felt motivated again. I kept imagining the day I'd return, seeing you and holding you in my arms like today. Tu Tien blushed, lowering her gaze. Heart pounded faster at his sincere words. But will your work keep you busy, will you? Have to leave again, she asked hesitantly. Jack shook his head, smiling reassuringly. For now I won't be traveling far. This project was an important milestone in my career. But now I want to spend more time with you. And my mother, Tu Tien, let out a relieved sigh. She squeezed Jack's hand tightly, her voice filled with tenderness. I'm really happy to hear that. Every time you're away I worrying so much. I just wish for you to always be safe and healthy. Jack reached out and gently brushed his fingers through her soft hair, his voice full of affection. I know, Tim. I could feel your care through every message you sent, every prayer you made for me. That was my greatest motivation. To get through the tough times, sharing stories about life away from home. Jack continued sharing with Tu Tien about the interesting things he experienced abroad. The bustling streets, the cozy little cafes where he worked, and even the intense meetings with business partners. But honestly, no matter how beautiful or modern that place was, nowhere felt like home. Jack said, his eyes filled with nostalgia. Every time I saw sunflowers or caught the scent of coffee, I thought of you. Tu Tien smiled softly, her eyes filled with warmth. She could feel the sincerity in his every word. You don't know this, Jack, she said gently, but every day I went to the garden and prayed for you, wishing for your safety and good health. Maybe that's why you came back home safely. Jack looked at her with deep affection. his lips curving into a loving smile. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. Tien, there's no one in this world more important to me than you. Jack tightened his grip on her hand. His eyes serious. Tien, I know work is important, but from now on, arrange things so that I don't have to be away from you for too long. I don't want you to have to wait or worrying about me anymore. Tu Tien smiled, her eyes glistening like a sky full of stars. I believe in you, Jack. I always trust and love you. At that moment, they both felt the deep connection between them. Love wasn't just about words, it was in the little acts of care, the loving gazes and the quiet moments they shared. Outside, a gentle breeze swept across the fields, carrying the fragrance of blooming flowers. In the small house, two hearts continued writing their beautiful love story, filled with promises of a future, overflowing with happiness. As night fell, Jack and Tu Tien enjoyed dinner with their family. Every smile, every word exchange carried simply a profound happiness. Their love, tested through time and distance, had only grown deeper and stronger. Jack quietly stepped into the familiar house, carrying a bouquet of fresh flowers and a small gift bag. The house was warmly lit, as if always waiting for his return. He carefully opened the door, his eyes lighting up as he saw his mother, sitting on the sofa knitting a sweater. She looked deep in thought, but at peace. Mom, I'm home. Jack's mother flinched in surprise and looked up. Her eyes widened as she saw Jack standing there, radiant and full of life. The bouquet in his hand made him look even more like the beloved son she had longed to see after so many days apart. Jack, my son. She put down the sweater and ran to embrace him. Tears of happiness rolled down her cheeks. Jack gently stroked her back, his voice filled with emotion. Mom, I missed you so much. I'm back to make up for all the days you had to worry about me. She smiled, wiping her tears as she looked at him from head to toe, as if making sure he was truly safe. As long as you're home, Jack, that's all that matters to me. From the kitchen, Tu Tien heard Jack's voice and rushed out. The moment she saw him, she froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. Jack. Tears welled up in her eyes as she ran toward him, embracing him tightly, like a child who had finally found a lost loved one. Jack wrapped his arms around her, feeling the slight tremble in her breaths. Tien, I'm here. I've come home, Jack whispered, his voice gentle and comforting. To you. Tien couldn't say a word. She simply held him tighter. She wanted to feel every heartbeat of his, to make sure he was really there, safe and sound. After the emotional reunion, the three of them went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Together, Tu Tien helped Jack's mother set the table, while Jack peeled fruit. The house was filled with laughter and conversation. The dinner was simple but full of love, with all of Jack's favorite dishes: sour soup, braised pork, and stir-fried morning glory with garlic. Tu Tien sat next to him, occasionally picking food for him. Jack, eat more. I'm sure you haven't been eating properly these past days. Tu Tien reminded him, her voice gentle but full of concern. Jack smiled, his eyes filled with affection. Everything tastes amazing. It must be because you and Mom made it. Feels extra special. Jack's mother chuckled, glancing at her son. You always know how to sweet talk. But I'm just happy to see you eating so well. Throughout dinner, Jack shared stories from his business trip, the fascinating things he had learned, the unique foods he had tried, and the moments when he missed home so much that he just wanted to drop everything and come back immediately. What about you, Tien? How's the farm been lately? Have things been difficult? Jack asked, his voice full of concern. To you. Chin smiled softly and nodded. It's been fine, I just kept hoping you'd come back, so I could tell you everything. Now that you're home, I feel like I have so much more strength. After dinner, the three of them sat together in the living room. Jack's mother brought out a box of sweet pastries. She had prepared well. Jack made coffee for everyone. Tu Tien sat beside him, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Mom, from now on, I'll try to arrange my work, so I won't have to be away for too long. I want to spend more time with you and Chan, Jack said. His expression serious. Jack's mother smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. As long as you are safe and happy, that's enough for me. But with Chin by your side, I believe everything will be just fine to you. Chin lowered her head, her cheeks turning pink. She could feel the warmth and support from Jack's mother, and it made her feel incredibly lucky. Jack, I hope you won't have to leave again either. But if you do, I'll always wait for you and pray for you. Tu Tien said softly. Jack looked at her, his eyes shining under the warm light. I know, Tien. I can always feel your love and support. It's the most precious thing in my life. Outside, the moonlight gently bathed the fields, blending with the warm glow. Inside the house, they sat together, cherishing the peaceful moment, as if all worries had melted away. Love and family were weaving beautiful memories, ones they would always remember. Perfect evening of reunion and happiness.